Hey folks, this is the other bra coming to you live and direct from North Carolina. We have an awesome video from JNS talking about October 7th, everything that happened, and really how people should seriously be looking at what the situation is. Let's stick around for the whole video and talk about it at the end.
When October the 7th happened, I started doing some press, and I knew we had 3 days, 4 days of grace before somebody says, well, what do you expect? You're occupying them, completely forgetting, of course, that we'd left in 2005. So the demonization happened even before we even went in, and anybody was dead on the other side.
First of all, I don't think you fully had 4 days. The thing started up more or less instantly, and according to some, there were tip-offs that this was about to happen. Black Lives Matter, immediately raced to celebrate the paragliders. So I don't think you had that much as a pure honeymoon. You had a hybrid situation where many of the advanced institutions in the West that have been losing credibility came to your defense, but you mismanaged that. And, look, you feel free to disagree with me, but my point is that this situation should be very confusing to you, that a group of people hold hostages, are chanting from the river to the sea, clearly indicating that they want to kill you. And this is highly popular with people who are young and have very little life experience, where nobody has any knowledge of what actually happened in the region. And you have a narrative where you're saddled with being a European colonial project. And clearly, we're staying in near the Carmel market. It's kind of bizarre. This is one of the most diverse groups of people around. Somehow you have not figured out how to shake this narrative despite the advanced capabilities. You're very bad at PR and you're very bad at communicating a situation, and it's probably the more important component relative to Israel's fearsome military might.
I completely agree with you, and I've been shouting from the rooftops to whoever would listen to me in the government that we are fighting this hybrid war, as you say, and we're completely unprepared for the communications, for the PR, for the comms of this war. They've also got 30 years ahead of us in this. I mean, when you think about 40?
I'm not sure what you're saying. Why do you decide? They're not that far ahead of you. You're just not.
Qatar hasn't been poisoning the minds of academia and press for the last 20 years?
You're just not putting your shoulder to the wheel.
I agree.
My feeling about this is that I know individuals who are having more effect than the state. And, I kept saying, is no one going to call any of us? You have all sorts of people with very large... No, look, you just have to take it. You screwed up. Period, the end, zeze. That's it. And if you don't admit that you screwed up and you don't give the devil his due, you're not going to advance. And so that's not what Jews do. You learn from your mistakes.
You're 100% correct. And the problem, I think, is that there's just no strategy here when it comes to comms, at least. And many other people would say there's no strategy at all in this country.
I think that in part you got very confused on October 6th. Think about what you were arguing over on October 6th. You thought you were in Europe. You're not in Europe.
Exactly.
I don't know how to explain it, but the fact is, I'm going to get myself kicked out of this country within the time that I'm here. But
this is what we live for.
but from my perspective, they're just a series of catastrophic errors where Israel failed to see itself accurately and failed to use the tools that it had when it was attacked in a brutal fashion. And by the way, it's not like I'm just blinded with love for Israel. You say you left, with Ariel Sharon making the choice to exit Gaza, but you still control the borders. They don't have the ability to freely do whatever they want. So you have to actually engage with the argument. And one of the things that I keep arguing for, which I think you're not going to love, is engaging with the deep critique and showing that you can survive it, that you can listen to the arguments, and you can say, there's a kernel of truth here, and this is not without merit, but, however, and And that will boost the credibility because, quite honestly, you're not pure as the driven snow.
No,
But the predominant argument still favors Israel. And it would be great to advance to the point where Israel can realize that all nations have a budget. You have a budget for brutality. You have a budget for failure. You have a budget for hypocrisy. And my feeling is that considering that this incredibly diverse country in one of the most dangerous and crazy regions came out of absolutely nowhere, it's not that you're as pure as you claim to be. It's that you're under your budget, which is a miracle. But you do commit very brutal acts, and you do act strategically, as all nations do. Now you've allowed this idea, well, the Jews are behaving strategically, Israel's so tricky, this, that, and the other thing. You're trying to minimize collateral damages, so you do this pager attack, you know? Okay, but you're still getting saddled with the idea that you're being crafty, you know? And in a certain sense, what I say is you can survive the truth. The truth is actually your friend, but the truth has to be presented in an attractive way. And I think that you're under your budget, given how difficult this place is a miracle. Yeah, but you know, let's be honest about it.
Absolutely.
I think there's an incredibly beautiful amount of nuance in what he had to say. I like to also watch these videos for the first time with all of you, and this was the first time I watched this video. And I think what he's presenting is yet again another case for why Israel is not just in the right, but if Israel and people who are defending Israel's right to defend themselves also were to admit, like I do, when I'm on live streams or when I'm making videos or when I'm having conversation with people in person or when I'm on Discord or on Instagram, if they are able to say what Israel isn't necessarily doing correct, not that they're committing a genocide, not that they're ethnically cleansing people, because we know those to not be true. But the other details, the minute details of when somebody says Israel fully controls the border, you guys are, operating an open air prison. And we're not operating an open air prison, but we for sure do control the border. And why is that? Well, we've seen that when we don't control the border, then Israel has a massive threat against them, which they have to do something about. And I agree with him that it builds credibility. This really goes to my whole idea and thesis of just trying not just to find common ground with someone that you're trying to talk to, but if you speak to somebody and all they do is say, no, it's your fault. Okay, that's also your fault. No, this is your fault. No, we don't do this. And it's just, you can clearly tell that there's no way for them to actually process what you're saying and maybe internalize it and ask themselves, wait a minute, is there something here that I can say, wait, we do have to work on this? Because if Israel were to do that more, besides like what he's saying, act like everything that is going on is fully not in their control or not their fault, it's just digging a deeper hole for the other person to not even want to have a conversation with us. I'm not saying Israel needs to come out and say, we're doing all these things wrong. No. But what he is saying is I forget exactly how he phrased it, but it's the idea of leaning into those accusations and not just, putting up the window and shutting it out immediately and then getting this reserved feeling of I'm not going to have any dialogue. I try to listen, and it's really hard, especially when somebody who's speaking to you is just saying things that aren't true. But you still have to be able to hear what they're saying so you understand where they're coming from if you want to actually try and shed some light to the situation. I really like this video. Please share it. Thank you so much for your support. I'll see you next time. If you want to continue the conversation, support my work for free. Discord does not cost a thing. It is the best way to connect with me and others who are seeking the truth. The link is in the description. But if you want to take it one step further, my Patreon gives you access to the Israel you don't see, uncovering the untold stories of what mainstream media does not show you. The link is in the description, and it helps me to continue this work. Or if you're just looking to help this thing go, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee is a really easy way to support me. This channel, this work does not happen without all of you. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you next time.